You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's Wife, The Hot Tea Hurl, Part 2. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We've detailed the nature of the allegation, namely that, in a fit of ignited fury, Harry's wife hurled hot tea over a member of staff as a consequence of the refusal to give her the entirety of Admiralty House, and this led to a hushing up of the incident, with the victim of the presumably scolding receiving $250,000. We've also established that this raises a possibility of this happening as a consequence of the fact that Harry's wife is a mid-range narcissist. We now look to see what evidence exists that this actually occurred. Tom Bauer, who assiduously researches his material, told us in his book Revenge that on one of the days of their trip, Harry's wife is said to have lost her temper, after which she engaged in an abrasive gesture against the female staff. He explained, Harry's wife was allegedly abrasive towards her 4 female staff and even towards the local British diplomats. According to one report, Harry's wife allegedly threw a cup of tea into the air. Her anger may have been partly fueled by Harry. Every night, he trawled social media, searching for snide comments on the internet. Every morning, he and Harry's wife turned on their phones to surf the internet. Tom Bauer, who is very careful about his research, suggests, therefore, that it may well have been a reaction to criticism of Harry's wife, which is being dug up by Harry, presumably thinking he was being helpful, which then caused the ignition of fury, resulting in a teacup being thrown into the air. Might this have splashed onto somebody else? So it wasn't actually thrown at them, but they ended up getting wet as a consequence of the enraged behaviour of Harry's wife? Well, it's a distinct possibility. Now, this version of events, reported by Tom Bauer, has been covered extensively, appearing in the Irish Mirror, the Daily Mirror, Daily Record, OK Magazine, Bristol Post, Birmingham Mail, The Independent, Daily Star, and others. Accordingly, could it be that, 1, this was the actual incident, and the tea was not thrown at somebody, but they got splashed as a consequence of being nearby? Or 2, is this what happened and nobody was wetted with the tea, and instead this incident has formed the foundation for what became an embellishment of the circumstances to suggest that Harry's wife actually threw the tea at somebody and that there was a cover-up thereafter? Or 3, is it the case that she lost her shit, threw a cup of tea in the air, and on a separate occasion, as a consequence of not being given the Admiralty building in its entirety, threw tea over somebody? 3 potential outcomes. Now, with regard to the allegation that she threw tea over somebody, Lady C, in an extract from her book, stated, "My take so far is that the tea is in the details and the excellent sources, so it's confirmation of events that we speculated about. The Australia Governor's House staff member who had tea thrown at them received a $250,000 payment in exchange for confidentiality." That seems to be confirmation of the speculation, and therefore would support that there were 2 separate incidents. But beyond that, there is no evidence that exists that there was actually tea thrown over somebody. It's not reported on. Well, that might be because it never happened, or it might be because people signed NDAs and they were not able to report on this, and the press did not deem that the rumour in itself was sufficient to print for fear of being sued, and therefore didn't go anywhere near it. There is an absence of actual eyewitness material that the tea was thrown over a specific person, who that person was, and that they received a payout thereafter. it keeps it within the realm of speculation. But what we must also look at is the behaviours of Harry's wife around that time. I've explained that there is a presumption of particular behaviour because she's a narcissist, but we also have plenty of evidence that shows how nasty she was towards people. For instance, at the time, there was a suggestion that she had forced the staff to make banana bread and then passed it off as her own. There was mention of staff being in tears. For instance, there was a growing stream of claims from anonymous royal sources that painted a picture of rising tension and clashes between Harry's wife and staff during her 16-day October 2018 tour of Australia, New Zealand, Tonga and Fiji. The Australia tour is one of the most important in the royal world, but there have long been allegations of rows with staff, a source told The Sun. Claims include Harry's wife becoming upset at being given only a wing of Admiralty House, the Australian Governor-General's official Sydney residence rather than the whole property. On another occasion, she reportedly lost her temper with an assistant and a hot drink was knocked over. So it would appear that there were two separate incidents, and it might be that they were conflated into one incident. Namely, she was upset at not being given the entire building. On another occasion, she lost her temper with an assistant, and a hot drink was then knocked over or thrown in the air, and the two incidents were put together so that her reaction to not being given the entirety of the building was said to have caused her to throw hot tea over somebody. It was also stated that the trip appeared to have highlighted the gulf between the reality of royal duties and the expectations of Harry's wife. When Harry's wife discovered that hundreds of people were waiting outside the Sydney Opera House to welcome the newlyweds, the Duchess reportedly said to the team, "What are they all doing here? It's silly." And she was told, "They're here because they admire and support a monarch and an institution that you're representing." But the source explained she just didn't get it. On the same trip, during a Fiji market tour, Harry's wife was seen by several reporters raging at an aide. Daily Mail royal correspondent Rebecca English said she witnessed the Duchess turn and hiss at a member of her entourage, clearly incandescent with rage about something, and demand to leave. English added, "I later saw that same female, highly distressed member of staff sitting in an official car with tears running down her face. Our eyes met, and she lowered hers, humiliation etched on her features." At the time, I was unable to document anything, as I couldn't conclusively link the two incidents together despite my suspicions. I have subsequently found out from other sources that my instincts were right. The Duchess, who had just announced she was pregnant with her first child in Australia, was swept away from the market by security after she whispered to a bodyguard. At the time, the reason given for the abrupt end to her walkthrough, which of course disappointed people, was that the area was hot and overcrowded. But the Times reported that Harry's wife was concerned about the presence of UN Women, a group she'd previously worked with promoting women's empowerment. Her lawyers deny this. The paper's royal correspondent also describes seeing the Duchess appear to have sharp words with her aides. It's clear, therefore, that there were repeated difficulties with Harry's wife's behaviour on this particular tour. The banana bread, the hissing at a member of a staff, the leaving the market, having a member of staff in tears, the suggestion of being angry as a consequence of the failure to provide her with the entirety of Admiralty House. There is a clear pattern of behaviour. And that was just on this tour. Then there are also the bullying allegations back in Britain, which she has repeatedly denied, and then high-handed behaviour such as this that took place at Wimbledon. Her attendance at Wimbledon, she was late and was told by an event planner that she was breaking the dress code. The planner asked her to take her hat off and asked her if she had a change of clothes because nobody wears jeans in the main boxes. She told the planner, "Do you know I can fucking fire you? Do you know who I am?" And her friends just laughed. Then she skipped security, which everybody must ordinarily go through. She wanted some specific red wine in the lounge, and they had to explain to her that they could only get her the local stuff at such short notice. She had none of it. A friend had 4 Pimm's cups under an hour and was telling inappropriate jokes to staff. Harry's wife was cursing all the time and smiling at the camera. She came to the match with a 20-minute notice. The Royal Protection officers were gobsmacked at the rush, and one of them confessed that it was his day off, but they pulled him out to escort her to the match. They had to allocate the entire box because no one had been background checked, and Harry's wife was laughing all the time at watching these people leave. She said, "This is just for us." Not all the people in the box could find seats, so Wimbledon lost around £15,000 on that incident owing to refunds. Some of them actually threatened to sue. At this point, the Duke of Kent and the Duchess of Cambridge were on a conference call. Catherine sounded apologetic, and Prince Edward sounded on the verge of tears because of her behaviour. He said that never in his lifetime has a member of his own family done something on this level of this event, and he offered to pay the ticket difference, and Catherine also offered to do the same. One of the Royal Protection officers very openly complained about Harry's wife and said that he believed she got very drunk with her friends. Catherine sounded horrified and apologised profusely. The Duke of Kent hosted a private dinner for everyone involved, but the people who accommodated Harry's wife got fired because they cost the tournament so much. The person said she knew she was going to get fired the moment they couldn't find a spot for people who actually came on time and paid their tickets. High-handed, haughty, dismissive behaviour, again showing no emotional empathy. We see not only a pattern of these behaviours, but a pattern of them being exhibited on the Australian tour. There's no separate reported evidence about the throwing of tea on a person, which therefore could mean it didn't happen, or it did, but it has been covered up. Given the other behaviours that took place on this tour, it is not surprising at all that Harry's wife would behave in this manner. And nor would it be a surprise that such an abhorrent piece of behaviour, throwing hot tea over somebody, would need to be covered up. The other aspects, hissing at a member of staff, having them in tears, the general entitlement that she exhibited by wanting the entirety of the building rather, well, those matters crept out. However, it would be seen that for a member of the royal family to hurl tea over somebody would be totally unacceptable, and therefore it would follow that it would be logical that this would be sought to be covered up. Given the fact that as a narcissist there's a presumption that she would behave this way, and the fact that there is repeated instances of evidence that she had behaved so badly on the Australian tour, and the fact that there was confirmation that she had demanded the entirety of the building, and the fact that there was a suggestion that she'd lost her temper and knocked over a cup of tea, it's likely that the hot tea hurl actually did occur and ended up being covered up, hence why it has not been reported as a separate and distinct incident of itself. Taking all of these factors into account, the conclusion is the hot tea hurl did indeed happen. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.